All right, here we are with episode number 9, Exponential Growth, and today we're doing this with man, I'm amazed. We just recorded episode number 9. Actually, this is number 10.
This is number 10. It's a big milestone for us.
So we have Dalton joining us. Thank you, Dalton, for joining.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, guys. Thanks for having us.
And you are in New Orleans. We're still recording here from the LBTC, but this is episode number 10. We're going to be talking about personal business growth as always. And Dalton, why don't you go ahead and tell us about your background and how do you get into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, definitely. So I kind of started out right out of college like most people do. I went the corporate route for a little bit, worked for a company that most people are probably familiar with, Anheuser-Busch, and we kind of ran around and did a lot of guerrilla marketing, a lot of special events promotion. Did that for a couple of years and quickly found out that after 2 years and being in hotel rooms for 600 days in 2 years and being in 45 different states that, hey, look, we need to make a change here. So kind of got out of that. And then from there, moved away from St. Louis, where I was based, back to Louisiana, and helped a couple guys do several startups. One of them was a digital out-of-home media company. And then I kind of got the itch and decided that I wanted to start my own. And so this was about 5 years ago. Moved to Austin and started a company that we called Zine Scene at the time. What it was an event recommendation app. So basically you could pull up your phone and it can kind of tell you everything going on around you, happy hours, events, concerts, that kind of thing. It actually grew a little bit too quick for us. We weren't really prepared for it. I wasn't really seasoned in the startup world at the time, and so ultimately crashed and burned. So kind of what I like to say is, I could tell you a million things what not to do in a startup.
How old were you when you started that one?
So that was, I guess, about five or 6 years ago. I guess I was 25, 26 years old when we did that, me and a couple of other people. So that ultimately did not work out. Great experience. Honestly, glad that I did it. Kind of helped me go down this journey. And then from there, went back to Shreveport for a little while and kind of consulted and helped a couple of guys do another startup there for a little while, kind of get it off the ground. And then ultimately parted ways with them so that I could kind of take on, the next project. And that's kind of led us to where we are today with Mainspree.
And what does Mainspree do?
So Mainspree is a mobile commerce application that allows businesses to sell directly through Instagram. So kind of what we've done is streamline the e-commerce and the social promotion side of the house for businesses. Kind of typically the way most businesses do it now is you have to go create some sort of e-commerce online store, and you could either do that with a template and kind of onboard all the inventory yourself, or you could outsource that and spend 5, 10, 20,000, to the sky's the limit on the investment that people spend to kind of get those stores up and running. And then you have to go into your social channels and promote all those items and drive people back to your online store to complete those purchases. What we've done is kind of flip the model a little bit, and as businesses post to Instagram through our app, we automatically onboard inventory into an online store. So we do it seamlessly, and the entire process takes about 20 or 30 seconds. So it's a huge time save, and it's a huge capital save. There's no upfront expense for these guys.
And what's the percentage that you guys take?
So right now, it's a free application. We're about to implement a revenue model of 5%.
Okay, and are you going to just stop serving those clients that you guys been serving for the couple past months, or you're going to say, hey, we have this fee now, 5%, and how are you guys going to work on that?
So we've actually talked to them, and they're okay with it. They know that in order for us to keep providing the product, the way that we are, they're going to have to put a little skin in the game, and they're completely fine with that.
Okay.
So I'm sure we'll lose, several, but everybody's been okay with this. We've actually worked with them from day one to kind of get to this point, and they kind of knew this was coming all along.
Yeah, because you still have to pay for all the hosting expenses on
right, exactly.
server space.
There's still a lot of expenses on ours. And even 5%, in the big scheme of things, it's a drop in the bucket for these guys, over time.
And that will add then 3% from Stripe or PayPal?
Correct. So right now we're with PayPal. We're going to integrate into Stripe. That'll make the checkout process even more seamless for customers.
Okay. Great. So yeah, we have the model, which you've been talking a little bit about that, but let's expand on the business model itself. And did you guys tried any other model before? Right now, it's kind of like a freemium.
Right. Yeah. So we initially this was a different product, and we were integrated more with Facebook. And then as Facebook kind of tightened the ranks, and everybody's organic growth kind of quickly plummeted, we knew we needed to find other platforms to get to. So that's why we rebuilt, kind of pivoted into Instagram as kind of our go-to-market, and then we'll roll out onto other platforms. So when we were on Facebook, we did have a transaction fee. So our customers are familiar with that.
Great. And money, of course, that's the next M out of the 5M that we cover. It's how do you guys make money? So we already covered that. The market, who do you guys are after?
So we do primarily with small business retail. Kind of our biggest segments are kind of the artist, craftsmen, maybe people that are building businesses out of their home, as well as your everyday Main Street boutique retail store.
Then management of, I guess, the team. I know you have a co-founder.
Correct. So I do have a technical co-founder. He serves as our CTO. He's got about 16, 17 years of experience. So he's been around the block a few times.
Did you have a co-founder on the first one, the event recommendation app?
I did. We had two co-founders, but we had a technical startup, obviously, and neither one of them were technical co-founders. So that was a big red flag out of the gate.
And so this new one is more the technical side of it.
Correct.
Tell us about that, and how is that working with co-founders?
It's great, to tell you the truth. I wouldn't do it any other way. It's kind of funny. We'll sit down at the table with some sort of, when we need to make a decision, and I'll start on one end, he'll start on another end of something, and next thing you know, we've come up with a third option that actually is the right option. So neither one of us might not be initially correct in the beginning. And so it's great to have that person to bounce feedback off of, to kind of celebrate the wins with, and as well as to kind of lean on, in the lower times. So I know that some people have been successful at doing these startups alone, but I wouldn't recommend it. I definitely recommend having somebody with you. It's all about team. You're only as good as the people around you.
Yeah, good advice there. So tell us about the transition from one market to the other. You're moving from your hometown, doing something funded there, and then all of a sudden you're moving into strange territory, and you're right in the middle of it. So it's not like you can say, hey, I've succeeded. You're right in the fight. Tell us how that fight's going. Cause
it's, like I said, I came in, just kind of guns a-blazing, but by myself. The rest of my team is still in North Louisiana for the time being. And it's great. I don't know that it would have worked out in every other market. I think New Orleans is great. I was talking to somebody the other day, actually, and I was kind of telling them how I think what has helped New Orleans, and that will ultimately make New Orleans successful, is that the culture in itself, so kind of take the arts and the food and the music that is so embraced here. They've kind of taken the startup ecosystem and brought it under that umbrella, wrapped its figurative arms around it, and it's kind of helped take everybody to the next level. Without it, there's a lot of other markets that I could have gone to do this, and I don't think that it would have been as easy. I literally came down here with nothing, and through LinkedIn and through some co-working spaces, and then one conversation and one email from to the next, been able to quickly immerse ourselves in the market down here.
What are some of those places in New Orleans that we should check out, or people that are listening?
Yeah, definitely. One of the first guys that I reached out to runs a startup called Gigsy. His name is Robert Warren. He's still in the very early stages, but he's one of my good buddies now, just in a few short months. And he's kind of come up step by step through the ranks. He worked with it out of a co-working space called Propeller. They kind of have some programs there, some mentorship and some early level, ways to kind of accelerate the program. Then he moved from there into the next level, which was a place called 4.0 Schools, which kind of took his company from step 1 to step 2. And then there's other places, Launchpad, which is a co-working place that I work out of here. Those guys are great. To tell you the truth, they've even helped us get meetings as far away as Silicon Valley. So there's a lot going on down here. They help you in the city, and then they help you make connections outside of the city if you need it.
So are you actually today at the Launchpad?
Yeah, I'm actually in one of the conference rooms right now.
There you go. Big shout out to Chris. We want to have him. Craig has been trying to schedule something. I know he's always traveling, and we've been traveling as well. But we will definitely have him in the show. I personally see him as a great role model in New Orleans, very active, and of course, bringing back that whole mindset from California or any of those places that he's been active and has some success. It's helped a lot the community in New Orleans to have some leadership involved.
Right. Yeah, he's the man down here. I love Chris Schultz to death. he was kind of the figurehead that helped get Collision down here. That was a big step for this market. And through Launchpad and several other things that he does, mentorship and being an investor in several things, he knows the startup world, he knows the tech community, and he's done a great job of kind of integrating it all together.
Yeah, I think when we get down to mentorship, I would love to touch base on that. But before we do that, I mean, we covered so far. This is going pretty good. We covered model, money, market, management. Why do you think it's key, the whole culture that you just said? I know we're here in Baton Rouge, which is only an hour away from New Orleans. And I do feel that there's no startup scene yet. There's a couple events here and there. And there's some startup companies that are now working together and collaborating, but I feel the difference. I'm from Venezuela. I moved down here 5 years ago, but I've been traveling around the States and around the world, and I see how different it is. So when I come here, I see the construct pretty heavy. People that grew up here, they don't necessarily see it, but you've seen it because you travel 45 places. So why do you think it's critical to have that culture?
I think because you can't do it alone. I mean, you just can't, and it takes a lot of different things. It takes smart people. It takes people that want to hustle. It takes money, so you need investors, and even more than just money, you need smart investors that can help connect people. You need to bring in some people that have done it before and that can kind of lead the way. It takes so many elements in order to build a startup scene. The saying's true about a rising tide raises all ships. It couldn't be more true. You have to have all of these areas because nobody knows it all. And everybody's got a little niche, and everybody's got some experience that they could lean on. And if you stick enough of those people around the table or in the same building or in the same city, then everybody can feed off of each other and everybody gets to win.
Now, you're over there at Launchpad. Is that kind of, you have a little office there? Or?
I just do the co-working. So I just use one of these floating desks. So I just come in, grab a desk when I need it. I'm not here 24/7 by any means, but it's a great way to get out of the house, to get out of the PJ, to get out of my PJs and kind of get somewhere. But I know guys here that I'm developed, good relationships with, that I'm good buddies that do have their own office here, and they've got the full setup. So I mean, it's Launchpad kind of gives us the ability to grow. So, as we bring people on, I can get more desks if I need them. I can get a permanent desk if I decide to set up, monitors and a printer and that kind of stuff, and I want kind of my files around. As we go to the next step from there, we can get, full office space for them so we can kind of close the door and do some things in private. So, yeah, we're able to kind of scale throughout this building.
Yeah. We saw you pitching at New Orleans Entrepreneurship Week, and to me, that was my favorite. I say you were gonna win, but do you remember who was the one that?
I think, was that the guy that celebrated?
Yeah, that was the guy that celebrated. That was
What was he doing?
Had you celebrated as much as him, I think you would have won.
Yeah. I know, right? I should have gone that way.
Yeah, but your pitch was fantastic. I think very clear, smooth, and of course your background is marketing, but tell us about why is that important on a startup, like selling or presenting. And
well, I think it's not necessarily selling. I think it's more of getting out and talking to customers and really finding out what their need is. It's great, everybody's got an idea, but if that's not what people need, if that's not solving the problem that they have, then that doesn't matter what you're selling at that point. So I'll look at more, instead of going and us pushing Mainspree down, on people and trying to make them use it. It's, hey, look, we've got a solution to a problem. And how do we know that you have that problem? It's because we've talked to hundreds and we've talked to thousands of these people, over the months that have built this product. We didn't lock ourselves away behind a closed door and say, hey, look, we're going to go build this widget and then we're going to open the door and we're going to go shove it on everybody. We went out with this idea of, hey, look, we see an inefficiency in what you're doing right now. Here's some ideas of how we think we can make it better. And then we went and built it. And so when we go back to them with it, they go, oh, great, this solves my problem. Boom. And so you don't have to sell it at that point. It kind of takes care of a problem and it works out for everybody.
Now, are y'all in y'all's seed or Series A, or where are y'all at now?
We're in our seed, yeah. So we're in the middle of that right now.
Now, I noticed a lot of young entrepreneurs, they really don't kind of understand that whole fundraising, seed round, Series A round. Maybe give us a quick walkthrough on that process, and if you're starting a business that needs to be funded by investments, what are the basics?
Yeah, we were fortunate enough to where we were actually able to start even before a seed with kind of some friends and family money. And that gave us the opportunity to focus. So I kind of look at the very first step of this, even before a seed, if you're able to take out a couple of credit cards or, the whole rich uncle story that everybody talks about, if you're able to get, a little bit of something to where you can go out and spend some time investigating your idea. And even before we did that before we had ever written the first line of code. It's, hey, look, let's be able to dedicate time to this. And then once we were able to dedicate time, we were able to build a prototype with the remainder of that. And then from there, we started to raise a seed series. And that really is allowing us to build out the correct product. So we had a prototype. We had to do some minor pivots in there to kind of get it where we needed to go after we put it in their hand. And now it's, refining the product during your series or during your seed raise, getting some market share. And it doesn't have to be a lot, but get it out in front of people, get your message right, get your product right, and really kind of build some traction. And then once you've done that, and you've kind of got, it's like building the machine, right? So during your friends and family, if you can, and during your seed series, it's build the machine. It's get the message right on what you're actually selling. Figure out how you're going to sell it, how you're going to talk to people about it. And then your Series A is really where you're shooting for the stratosphere at that point. You raise some good funding and you're scaling up at that point. It's no more of, hey, we're still trying to figure it out. At that point, you need to have it figured out. And if you don't have it figured out by then you need to start asking yourself some questions.
So where'd you get all that from?
Where did I get all that from? Experience, learning the hard way.
That's exactly what I wanted you to say.
And I learn it every day by talking to our investors and potential investors and potential users and our team. I mean, you learn that by doing it, by experience. There's no other way around it. You can read it in a book, but that doesn't mean anything. Like, you got to get out there and get in the dirt with everybody.
Yeah, I want to touch base on that. I know there's this whole notion of, hey, be your own boss and you have bosses and stuff. But I think when we're entrepreneurs, I see my clients are my bosses. Of course, it's not the same relationship.
But it is. Like, there's no such thing as being your own boss. Like, you can be your own boss when you're rich and retired and sitting on the beach. But besides that, everybody's got a boss. It's either, management or your board of directors. It's always your customers, right? So, like, they're always your bosses. And the more you grow, the more customers you have, the more bosses you have. You have to deal with all that stuff. So this notion of be your own boss is, I don't know. I think it gets taken out of context a little bit.
That's good.
Yeah, that's for the amateurs getting in before they get a dose of reality.
Yeah. You better learn quick to adapt to that train of thought.
You seem to be speaking a lot about how you learn from your environment of other entrepreneurs, of other investors, maybe even some of the lessons you've almost feel like you've gone through yourself because someone close to you have gone through it and you don't want to make that same mistake. But maybe tell our audience a little bit how important it is to surround yourself, not just by customers and investors, but other guys that are doing the same thing so you can learn from them.
Yeah, I mean, take the customers out of it, like you said, take the investors out of it. It boils down to, and the first part is team, your internal guys, like who are the guys that really can relate on a minute-by-minute basis to what you're doing and being able to vent to them. Another misconceived notion is that running a startup is this big, glamorous, famous world. Like, it's not. I always say it's peaks and valleys. 1 minute you're up, 1 minute you're down, next minute you're up again. So you got to be able to surround yourself with team that can ride those waves with you. That, sometimes different members of the team get hit harder on a different move. Say you go out and you're talking to a customer and maybe you get hammered on something. Well, they can kind of bring you up. So team is the most important. But even outside of team, it's great for me to yesterday, for example, it's, kind of end of day type deal or kind of happy hour, 5 or 6 o'clock. And it had been a good day, but it had just been a long day and I was, stressed out. So you just text a couple guys and they're stressed out too. So you go grab a beer and then you get to kind of share war stories. We're in completely different worlds of what our businesses are, but we still can relate on just some core issues. We all go through hard times.
And you're talking about entrepreneurs as well.
Yeah, other entrepreneurs, startups, those guys. You can always reach out to your friends per se, but like I've got a lot of friends in oil and gas or that are just in normal corporate jobs or something like that, and they don't experience nearly what we do. It's great the world that they're in, but they can't relate to, how are you going to make payroll or, are you going to be around in 3 to 6 months kind of a deal. So being able to talk to other entrepreneurs outside of your team is very important.
So what are some of your fears that you're facing right now? Some
of the fears that I face is really letting down people that have put their faith in us. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, to be honest with you, but our team, our investors, our friends, our families, every one of us, we could turn this off and everybody could go do something else, right? Like it's not necessarily the end of the world, but I take that real hard in the sense of, people early on, so kind of going back to the friends and family and seed around investments, they're not necessarily investing in your product. They might like the idea and that kind of deal, but they're investing in you. It's bet the jockey, not the horse. You might have heard that saying before. So that's a fear that I have. And it's also a fear that I have is making sure that we're delivering a product that works for our customers, that's reliable. We all have our pitfalls. We're not always exactly right on what we're delivering, but being able to respond to that. These people are running businesses, day in and day out, and they're depending on us to help them in some capacity of that. And it's making sure that they can lean on us when they need to.
So tell us about some of your networking strategies. You just dropped off.
Let me step back because I want to share before. In the last interview, you mentioned a quote that just blew my mind, and you talk about fears, and the reason he asked about fears, what's the quote?
This actually came from I can't remember who said it, but show me a man who fears nothing, and I'll show you a man that loves nothing.
That could be like that should be. I need a tattoo or something. T-shirt.
So kudos to you. That means you love these people you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, and I think people, if they say that they're not afraid of anything, then they don't know what they don't know enough about it. Like that's. I don't want to be the one to say it, but like it's almost an ignorant comment. Like you need to be passionate enough about something and love something enough to be able to put yourself on the line. And if you put yourself on the line, there's some level of fear associated with that. You're stepping out 1 foot off the cliff kind of, most days. And, you just hope that you don't fall off the wrong side.
Well, I think the key is that your personality is going to be more of a fearless personality. I think that's going to be a natural trait that you find in entrepreneurs. But you will fail. So what happens when fearlessness meets failure? That's kind of where your reality sets in.
That's exactly right. The trick is just, you hear it all the time. It's just keep going. We've all got fears in one form or another, but fears don't have to be crippling. They don't have to stop you. It's just something you face and something you address, and then you figure out a way to deal with it one way or another, and you move forward and you just move to the next thing. And it's always one step in front of the other.
Yeah, there's another good quote. I can only remember it was by some hippie flower child made it, but it was a pretty good. I'll have to research the name on it, but she said that courage is not the absence of fear, but I think the valuing that there is something more important than that fear.
Yeah.
Because certainly you're going to be afraid. I mean, you're not a robot, but it's not going to stop you from doing it because you value whatever it is more valuable than that fear. It just gets you past it.
Right.
And I tell you, belief in when people believe in you, you can run through brick walls. And so that's critical.
That's 100% right. And I'll tell you this, I'd much rather try something, even if I'm afraid of it, and fail than have to, sit there and think, well, what if? Like, that's the worst thing ever, is having to be like, well, why didn't I do that? Why did I let that why did I let that win? Because you never know, what can happen if you just give it a try, give it everything you got.
Yeah, I think Dalton brings up a very good point. Is if you're betting on a guy to make the shot, that presumes you're betting on a guy that's going to take the shot.
Exactly, yeah.
Because so many of us might get chewed out by our coach, and he's saying, why didn't you at least take the shot? You need to shoot. It's okay to miss, but you got to take the shot.
Yeah, I mean, what is it saying? Like you miss 100% of shots you don't take.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Now, this show is called Exponential Growth. Like I say, I'm excited that we're now episode number 10. But exponential growth is like compound interest. It is every year you start with $1,000, and next year is $1,200, and next year is so. Life, I think, is for us entrepreneurs, it's exponential.
Right.
We keep getting better. But specific to you, to your journey as an entrepreneur, what can you attribute that personal growth?
I think kind of touching on what we just did. My personal growth has to do with addressing things that I'm not comfortable with, especially as an entrepreneur. You're going to face new things every day in one way or another, right? And my personal growth has been the ability to be comfortable being uncomfortable. So that's helped a lot in my personal growth, and it's absorbing. Everybody takes a different road down a startup or an entrepreneur path. And so there's infinite amount of obstacles that I have not come across, right? But the next guy might have. So if I can learn from him about how he did it, well, then boom, that takes my growth up right there. And so if I ever come to that, boom, I'm already ahead of that. So like those are the kind of things that when I learn from other people that helps my growth not slow down. So I can kind of blow through that wall, right? I don't have to sit there at that wall, face it, and figure out how I'm going to get through it. I can rely on, hey, these guys, I talked to 2 other guys 6 months ago or something, and this is how they got around it. So boom, I already have 2 options right there. So try those and then get on to the next. So that's really how I grow is learning off other people's experiences.
So let's go back to where you said you had started that other one. It kind of crashed and burned. Obviously, you may have let yourself down, let people down, let the people that believe in you down. How did you tell us how you picked yourself back up from that and started this Mainspree?
Yeah, to be honest, it's tough. I don't think anybody likes to fail, and so when we decided to flip the light switch off on that, there's a little bit of soul searching time, and the way that I picked myself up was find another problem and try to solve it. Like try to help somebody, and it's like finding the problem is, that's just a different way of saying help somebody. So it's, hey, look, I'm kind of in a rough spot right now because our business, business X just failed or whatever just failed. But if I can help somebody else up, there's a little bit of selfishness in there in the sense of, hey, I've helped them, so I've done something good. They're happy. It's going to make me feel good. And so if you start to go help enough people solve problems, well, now you're back up. And maybe you find a problem while you're helping them on a one-to-one basis where there's a larger problem that you can go and solve at scale. And so it's really just, you can't climb a flight of stairs, in one big step. It's just one step at a time. And so I kind of took that route of, hey, look, I'm not going to get back up to, to ground level or to the top of the mountain immediately, but let's just start. The biggest thing about after I failed was just start, do something, help somebody do something, whether that was, doing some consulting or jumping in on another project with somebody else, or heck, getting on a phone with somebody and giving 30 minutes of my time, just because they hit a wall with something else. So it's all about not stopping, just keep going.
You had said something key, look for a problem to solve. That's great to start a business on that premise. But also it's a great place to network and find investors. I found some of my best mentors and investors running a golf tournament for a nonprofit, helping to fund a gala, things like that. Not just good business solutions, but if there's a big community problem or a big outreach and you can participate in that, that's one of the best places to find the movers and shakers that have the wherewithal to fund these nonprofits and to fund your company that's solving a great problem. So I just kind of wanted to add that solving a problem helps you in so many ways, and having that mindset, looking out for that.
Yeah, let's close with, in the next 10 minutes that we have left in this show, let's close with, so personal growth, you talk about surrounding yourself and learning from others and growing. Now, what about, you do any reading or any conference that you guys attend or?
Yeah, so I tried to read. I'll be honest, I don't do it as often as I should, but I definitely like to hear I do. Instead of just reading books about here's how to do X, like I want to know people's real life experiences. Like I want to know people's war stories. So like that's the stuff that I like to read. And a lot of that, you can find through blogs, those kind of things. I don't really know any of the ones off the top of my head. Conferences are great. And I don't think conferences necessarily have to be, you don't have to go to the biggest ones. Find the local events that are going on and just start there, because, those are the easiest people on a local level that you can call up and say, hey, you want to grab coffee for 20 minutes, right? Like a conference is great when you get to meet people from all over the country or all over the world, but it's kind of hard to grab a cup of coffee with a guy that you meet from, Europe. It's tough to do that. So that's a lot of what I try to do, is do stuff on a smaller scale because I can do more of them. So not necessarily just conferences, but meetups and events. I mean, I've been to some sort of event every night this week, right? And what was the investment that I had to put up there? My time, an hour or two, but it's a great investment, right? I'm not spending time in airports, flying around the country to conferences. Yeah, we go to a couple. I went to Collision here in New Orleans a couple weeks or months ago. But yeah, do stuff on a local level as well.
Now, I know you say you use LinkedIn, and can you walk us through kind of like, the line of it's funny how there's actually blog posts that tells you how to do this. Like they teach you how to reach out to people to connect on a local level, because especially like me, like you say, there's no right or wrong way. There's just different ways of connecting with people and ideas. And like you say, the one that you're saying is very practical. So you can just reach out, go on LinkedIn, see, hey, these are, the top 10 guys, entrepreneurs here that I want to talk to them. So what do you tell them to start that initial meeting or coffee or whatever? And then when you meet with him or her, what's the drill? Of course, you're not trying to sell them anything. You're just trying to connect. In New Orleans, I know it can happen way faster and easier because of the culture. But in St. Louis, maybe, or Baton Rouge, it's different.
Yeah, this is how my approach went. And I mean, it's simple. Like, I think I found some pitch contest that had gone on in New Orleans. I don't even know when it was, but they had a list of several startups, probably 10 or 12. So I literally went to LinkedIn, found the founder of all 10 of those, shot them all a message and said, hey, look, I've got a startup. I'm just moving to New Orleans. I don't know anybody. I'd love to buy you a cup of coffee. So I reached out to a dozen guys. I probably had 3 of them that responded. Got 3 guys that were like, yeah, man, I'll give you 20 minutes or 30 minutes. I don't know you from Adam, but yeah. So got to meet with those guys. Several other guys that I reached out to, I've met since then, they didn't respond, but I've met them and they go, oh yeah, sorry I didn't connect. And it's like, no problem. And so we've built relationships since then. But even the first couple guys that did respond, met with those guys and, just told them what I was doing. But I'm much more of, and this is, I strongly believe this, like figure out how you can help them. There's something that you have that you can help every person with, whether it's an introduction or, like I said, share a war story about what you've done, or, in a great situation, maybe there's some sort of way for you to work together. But like don't go in trying to sell yourself. Like literally, we went and got a cup of coffee. One guy I grabbed a beer with. That was it. 20, 30 minutes. Everybody goes about their way, and we've got a relationship. One of those guys, I think I mentioned him early, Robert Warren with Gigsy, reached out to him through LinkedIn. He's like, yeah, cool. So we teamed up, and then right after we had teamed up, he decided to start this Monday night kind of startup happy hour deal. And now through that, since I'll reach out to him through LinkedIn, and then he starts this a couple weeks later, now there's about 10 or 12 guys associated with that. So now I've got those 10 or 12 guys to meet with. They all know somebody else, and boom. I mean, talk about exponential growth, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty easy. You talk to 2 or 3 guys, and next thing you know, 50 people. Like literally. I mean, I've been down here 4 months, and I've got real relationships with dozens and dozens of people that quick. It's just about, it boils down to, just initiate it. Like I said, so 9 out of those 10 or 12 people didn't respond, right? But all it takes is 1, and you never know if you don't do it. If I wouldn't have reached out to anybody, if Craig and I, if I hadn't met you guys, like we wouldn't be here today, and you never know where this goes. But I know where it would go if we wouldn't. have followed up, right? Wouldn't have gone anywhere.
Nowhere.
That's what, that side of it.
That's right.
So this is a problem I'd love for you to speak on. How do you ask for money? Like when you're at the point of asking for funds.
Oh,
Everyone loves to do this, by the way.
I don't know that there's a right way to ask for money except for the point of be upfront when you reach out to people. And the way we've got investors and the way that we've talked to investors has been, either through connections. And to tell you the truth, some of it's been through just cold email and say, hey, look, I've got an opportunity. I'd love 20 minutes of your time to talk to you about it and say, hey, look, be upfront. Hey, we're trying to raise some money. And I don't necessarily think that you try to go for the close on the first deal, on the first conversation. Tell you the truth, I don't even necessarily think that you try to get an in-person meeting on the first, See if somebody can take a 10-minute call on their way to work or, when they're taking an Uber from one place to the next or something like that, just to get it started. And then from there, build relationships. We've had several people that have invested in us that came to us. We didn't think that they wanted to invest. We hung out with them. We built a relationship, and then it's a much easier situation. But I don't know that there's no secret to how people get money. Well, I guess there is. The secret is just build something that people want to be involved with. Grow. But asking for money, I think you just make your intentions up front. Hey, I want to kind of talk to you about this. Get it. The quicker that you can get a yes or no, the better. That is incredibly valuable advice for a startup or any entrepreneur. The worst thing that you can do is waste your time, because that's all you've got, right? Is your time is chasing somebody down that is saying, call me in a month, maybe. Like, it's okay to get no. No is the second best answer, right?
Yeah, that's critical, because a lot of times you just chase down people that just maybe, and it's not because they don't like you sometimes, they're just not at that point in their life, or they just funded something else.
And that's okay. And sometimes you might need to, I haven't had to go through this, but maybe you have that conversation with them, because some people aren't comfortable saying no, right? So they just say maybe, or they kind of let it go on. Even some investors are like that. So just kind of, tell them, hey, look, if you're not ready for this, that doesn't mean the relationship has to end. I've been told no by a lot of people that I've got great relationships with. It's not the end of it. That's just business.
So we wanted to speak a little bit about mentorship, since that's kind of what my background is. And that's the nonprofit we started helps, connect successful entrepreneurs to startups. And for me, mentorship was a very powerful component of my life. Has there been a mentor in your life that you can think back to, even back to when you were a child, or maybe even today, that you can tell us about?
Yeah, I think ultimately it started with my family. My dad has always been an integral part of my life. He has done everything for me and still does to this day. He's highly involved. I can pick up the phone literally 24/7. He's one of those guys that he'll go to sleep at 8 o'clock at night, but then he's up from 11 to 4 a.m. kind of deal. So he's been great. I've been able to rely a lot on my uncles. They've always been real close to me. And just I've had great bosses for the most part over the years. And up and down the chain, especially when I was in the corporate world, like, I'm not really a corporate kind of guy, but the knowledge and value that those guys have and experience about being able to lean on them and see how they develop processes. Like, if you're able to develop a process, then it's definitely something that makes your world a lot easier. You kind of, one thing leads to the next. So they helped teach me that a lot. I've been able to lean on several other startup founders or ex-founders that have been successful, but I've found more value out of people I've relied on that have failed. Like, they can tell you why they failed. They can go back and pinpoint some of these things and really be able to lean on them because they relate to what you've done has been great in me finding, being able to rely on people and pick up a phone and say, hey, look, do you have 10 minutes? Let me tell you about this problem. Those have been the kind of people that have helped us out a lot.
Fantastic. So where can people go to find you and your company? Yeah,
so our website is mainspree.com, and that's mainspree.com. You can also check us out, on social, Instagram. We do a lot of Instagram stuff, Twitter, Facebook. Instagram is probably a great place to find us. You can download us in the App Store, iOS app. We have Android coming. We'll get there.
What's the process to get started with you guys?
It's simple. I mean, you download an app. We need an email address, a password, and an Instagram handle, and that's it. You're up and running. Everything else is automated.
Okay.
So you don't have to go and build out any online stores. You don't have to do anything else. I mean, you can download the app and have your first item for sale in about 60 seconds.
And for investors listening, what's your minimum investment and how much are you looking to raise?
We're looking to raise $275,000. Our minimum investment is $25,000.
Fantastic. So anybody that's interested, we'll try to get the word out. Us in the Legacy, we're actually going to try to help Dalton get his funding that he needs so we can have another great startup here in Louisiana.
Yeah, we'll see you in New Orleans soon, and thank you for your time, man.
Yeah, man, it was great, guys. I appreciate you having us on.
Fantastic.
All right.
Good show.
Let me pause it real quick.